All right. Okay. See, we have to run from room to room. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hopping on today for some, tonight for some. I just want to first say thank you for logging in with us to learn about the new performance line that just launched last week in Nashville. Today we've got guest speaker Billy McDonald. Billy is a certified nutritionist. He's got over 20 years of experience in the personal training world. In addition to that, he has skills and background on how to basically performance nutrition when it comes to our special forces. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Billy.
Hey everyone, my name is Bill McDonald, and I am super excited to share with you the latest performance line that was just released. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. That she didn't tell you, I've got 20 years experience. I got a degree in health science, about a dozen certifications, and as she mentioned, I've worked in the special operations, special forces world for about 15 years. And so I'm very familiar with performance nutrition and performance in general. And I have been studying nutrition for about the last 20 years due to a family history of diseases and illnesses. So I have a specific interest in that, and I have really made an effort to get the science of nutrition. So without further ado, what I'm going to do as we're talking about this performance line is I'm going to give you a little bit of a foundation and background in some nutritional things that you should know moving forward, both for yourself and for the people that you're trying to help. And so the first thing I want to address is the RDA, the recommended daily allowance that we all used to see on boxes that has changed to the RDI. And what I want you to understand is the RDA and the RDI, neither one are a good basis for getting the right nutrition. The RDA was developed after World War I as a basis to prevent people from getting ill, not from them performing well, not for them being extra healthy, but because of the food shortage, those numbers were designed so that people would not get sick. And then the RDA was later developed, and it was based on 97 to 98% of the healthy population and what they need for nutrition to be healthy. Now, the sad thing is, as we all know, about 70% of the population is considered overweight in this country. And a study in 2012 stated that only 3% of the population was actually considered healthy. So when you're looking at that RDI and you think, well, this is all I need, remember that the demographic that was based on was anywhere from 3 to 30% of the population, not the majority. Okay, so moving forward, a lot of people say they get adequate nutrition, and they're mistaken, as I mentioned, partially because of the RDI and because it doesn't factor in the quality of the nutrition that you get, nor does it factor in lifestyle factors like smoking, living in a smoggy environment, exercising a lot. And that's why supplementation is really important, especially for those people that are really, really active. This new performance line has done a great job providing quality supplements to help people reach their top performance. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about Energize. Here's a picture of that. Now, we all know that a lot of people take what's called a pre-workout supplement. Now, the problem with most pre-workout supplements is that they tax your adrenal system, and your adrenal system is responsible for producing hormones, controlling cortisol levels, blood pressure, electrolyte absorption, a number of different things. And the great thing about Energize is it allows you to get a boost so that you can perform at your top without taxing your adrenal system. Now I'm going to talk about the different substances in each of these, and I'm going to give you the most important information that you need. So you want to make sure you have a pen and a paper, and at the end we can talk about more about those details. So Energize has a supplement called beta-alanine in it. Now, beta-alanine is an amino acid, and it helps synthesize something called carnosine. Now, you don't really need to know all of that. All you need to know is that the end result is that it helps improve muscle endurance and performance. And more specifically, it does that when you're exercising at a higher intensity. So, for example, if you took this before you did something like Insanity or a HIIT training, this would help you even more so than if you were doing something less intense. It balances your pH system, so that's the acid-base system. So it helps reduce the acid buildup in your body after you take it. It improves muscle strength in both aerobic and anaerobic endurance. So what that means is if you're doing cardio, it helps with that endurance, and if you're doing muscle training, it helps with that as well. It also has a substance called quercetin in it. Now that's a flavonoid that gives fruits and vegetables their color. Now it's an antioxidant. It reduces free radical damage that happens when we exercise and we start to damage cells. So it helps reduce that. It also helps reduce inflammation, which we all get when we exercise, especially at an intense level. It reduces cortisol, and cortisol is responsible, it's a stress hormone. It's responsible for consuming muscle tissue, for fuel, and for fat storage. So it helps reduce the cortisol levels so that you don't get those other negative effects that you get from too much cortisol release. But there is a caution about quercetin. You won't have to worry about it really with this, but you should be aware that if anyone's on a blood thinner, Coumadin, Plavix, or aspirin, then they need to consult their physician before they use this supplement because it can increase the effects of those drugs. It also has green tea. Now, the great thing about green tea is it's a natural, non-jittery form of caffeine. So you get the benefits of caffeine without getting all the jitteriness that you could get from other forms of caffeine. And it's also low in sugar. Okay, so now we're going to move on to another topic because we're going to talk about hydrate. That's hydrates right there. Awesome. And this is about hydration. Now, something you may not know is that 75% of the population on a study in 2012 was deemed to be dehydrated. So that's a pretty big factor there because just 2% of being dehydrated affects your mental ability to process things, react, process information, and things like that. And 3% dehydration affects your muscle speed by 8% and endurance by 10%. So when we all think, whatever, hydration, whatever, no big deal, understand that those small percentages dramatically affect your ability to perform, both mentally and physically. And the great thing about hydrate and the way they formulated this, it optimizes your ability to hydrate. So there's a couple things, let me back up a little bit, that affect hydration for your body. One is how fast your body can absorb that fluid in your small intestine. We're not really going to talk about that. We're going to move on to the stomach, and that's how fast fluids can empty out of the stomach. Now, the thing about that is the higher the sugar concentration, the slower that happens, and the slower you stay hydrated. Now, a drink like Hydrate here, the amount of sugar they put in here is perfect for actual hydration, for fluid to get emptied out of the stomach and to get into your system with those electrolytes. The higher the sugar concentration, the worse it is. And there are products out there that have very high sugar concentrations and they don't work quite like they do. But after looking at Hydrate and how it's formulated, I can tell you this right here has got the best formulation for electrolytes and sugar for hydration. Now, we're going to move on to something called, actually we're going to go to Recharge first, then we'll go to Recover. So Recharge is a supplement that's designed for post-workout, but really just before you sleep. And so Recharge has micellar casein protein. Now, I'm sure we've all heard about whey protein and egg and different things. But the special thing about casein protein is it's a slow digesting protein. But in this Recharge supplement, they don't just have casein protein, they have micellar casein protein, which is the top quality form of casein protein. Now, it's undenatured, which means it's processed in such a way that it doesn't damage any of the branched chain amino acids that are in it. It's a time-release protein, so on average, it takes about 7 hours, or almost the time that you would be sleeping while you're building, to be released. So it's constantly giving your body what it needs. Now, I'm going to give you an analogy so you can maybe better understand how that works. If you were given a pile of bricks and a bunch of mortar, and you were supposed to build a wall, if they dumped all the mortar you needed next to those bricks, halfway through, or even sooner than that, you wouldn't be able to use the mortar. It'd be wasted. You wouldn't be able to lay the brick because the mortar would be soft. So that would all be wasted. So if you take a different type of protein at night, like whey, it's not as effective. It's kind of like dumping it all in there and half of it gets wasted. When you take micellar casein protein, then what happens, it's like someone is just regularly, like every 15 minutes or half an hour, they're delivering that fresh mortar so you can lay that brick and build muscle. And so that's why it's really critical to have something like this. So when they formulated this, they really knew what they were doing. Now, it's got a high blend of branched chain amino acids. And what happens is it reduces protein breakdown. So this is a very key fact to know. Micellar casein protein reduces muscle or protein breakdown better than any other form of protein. So that, again, is why it's critical to take it at night, because at night's the only time we really build and repair. Okay? And so if you give it the right protein, that's when you're going to build that muscle and repair and be ready for the next workout. Now we're going to move back over to Recover. Now, Recover is the post-exercise protein supplement that was developed. Now, the great thing about that is it's got 3 types of protein in it. Now, it has whey protein, and it has whey protein isolate, which is one of the top forms of protein that can be used. It's got pea protein, and it's got casein protein. Now, I already talked about casein protein, so we're going to move on. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about whey protein. Now, whey protein has some benefits that a lot of people don't know about. So it's an anabolic, which means it helps to build. When you take it right after a workout, as it states here, it actually helps stop the breakdown and damage that you got from the workout. It kind of slows it down. It's an antiviral, so it actually helps against viruses and things like that. It helps with your immune system. It helps with anti-inflammation, and it also is an anti-carcinogenic. All right, so a bunch of benefits from taking whey protein. Now, let's move on to pea protein. Now, pea protein has a very high, plant protein has a very high level of branched chain amino acids in it, and it actually has a higher concentration of protein for the amount. So if you took a scoop of whey and a scoop of pea protein, you'd have a higher concentration of protein, not necessarily higher quality, but higher concentration, and it sort of has a slower release as well with that casein protein. It also has 3 other branched chain amino acids in it: arginine, leucine, and phenylalanine. We're not going to talk about those. Just know that it's got even extra branched chain amino acids in it. It's also safe for food allergies. If people have food allergies, just a note for later, if someone says I can't take whey. Keeps you satiated longer. Okay, so that's really important because post-exercise, a lot of times people get hungry. I believe they put that pea protein in there so that you would kind of stay full longer and just feel more satiated. It's also cholesterol and fat-free, so that's a big boon. And I think that's pretty much it. I talked about casein. Okay, and so now we're going to move on to creatine. All right, so creatine is naturally found in skeletal muscle, especially cardiac muscle as well. Now, it's been studied for years and years and years. There are so much information on how creatine positively affects performance. Now, in this particular performance line, it's creatine monohydrate. And what I want you to note is this: there are all kinds of creatine out there, and there's all kinds of marketing and hype. But the only one that has...
Hey, Bill, hold on. Bill, hold on real quick. So everybody needs to mute their line. We had a couple people just join and the lines aren't muted, and therefore Bill is his volume is going down. So if everybody could mute their line, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Sorry. So again, creatine monohydrate's what's in here, and it is because it is the purest form, and it is the form that has undisputably the most amount of positive research that shows that it actually works. And so don't go on to get all those other hypey creatines. Just stick with creatine monohydrate. Now, creatine does some really awesome things. It is, let's see, I already said it's found on skeletal muscle. Okay, what it does is it helps with recovery time. There's something called a Krebs cycle, and all it basically what it works on is it helps when muscles fire off. There's a certain amount of time that they need to regenerate before they can fire off again. Creatine really speeds up that process so that you can make that muscle work harder and faster, and it recovers much quicker. It also is a cell volumizer. So what it does is it draws water into the muscle tissue itself, basically hydrating the muscles, is essentially what it does. So it gives you fuller muscles. It also helps, again, slow down protein breakdown from workouts and exercise, and it also helps with protein synthesis as well. So all the supplements. I'm going to turn it back over to DJ.
Yeah, hold on. So, okay, try now.
Try what now?
There was a background noise again, so sorry. Continue.
Okay, so I pretty much covered everything that's important about the performance line. Hopefully you could gather from all the information I shared. The performance line is awesome, and it's going to take everybody who uses its game to the next level. Really great stuff. So CJ, I'll turn it over to you.
So there are a couple of different things. So what I'd like to do is take the remaining time that we have on this specific Zoom and open it up for questions for Bill. What I'd like to do is also do a part 2 that we can host on Thursday, where I will focus on how to market this to your current customers and to new customers. Because here's the deal. This performance line is designed from a sales and marketing perspective to a specific demographics. And unless you know how to market it to that demographics, you're going to get really frustrated, because just like when we hear Shakeology is too expensive, you're going to hear that with the performance line. And unless you marry what Bill has just shared with you to stories of success, whether it be yours or your customers, to then a specific demographic, it might be a bit challenging. So I'm going to host part 2, how to properly market the performance line to your customer base and to your coaches. So let's go ahead and take the last couple of minutes and, go ahead, Ellen.
Hi, can I ask a question or make a comment?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Billy. That was awesome. And thank you, CJ, for inviting my team to come on. That was really awesome. I'm really glad it's being recorded so I can share it with those who missed it. And also, I'm going to want to listen to it again. A couple of things that I wanted to just piggyback off of are, for those of you that maybe haven't read or weren't at Summit, there's going to be a challenge pack, and I believe it's with the pre-workout and the post-workout. And it's super exciting because now we can get people on a home direct order that meets their needs that maybe aren't interested in Shakeology, but they can be on a home direct order and be an active coach, for an example, with adequate PV. So that's super exciting and opens up a lot of doors for us. And then also, because we had an old, like the E&E, and then we had the P90X results in recovery. And by the way, I'm in love with P90X results in recovery. Those, I don't know that they're necessarily going to become obsolete, but in essence, when we're talking about those products that people like me love and adore, like one of our coaches, Emily, is like obsessed with E&E, and I'm obsessed with recovery. Basically, these new performance lines, they're better. They're better. Like with the recovery drink, one of the complaints people had is that it's kind of high sugar. It's lower sugar. So they just taken they're just science. Their science is better. Their formulas are better. That's what they are. They're better. And then lastly, I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Billy, but people that are lactose intolerant we cannot be recommending them the recovery drink if it's got a whey protein source in it. So be wary of that.
That's true. But a lot of them, and I should have looked at that, but a lot of them they take lactose out. So let me get back with you on that, because I don't believe I believe one of these has lactose in it. So
yeah, because Billy is lactose intolerant and he still can take certain types of wheys.
Okay.
So
I think it's just in the recovery drink.
yeah, so I think, you know, whenever there's a question, I think we all know that they should consult their physician, for sure, because none of us are doctors. But so does anybody have any questions for Billy before we time out? Go for it, Brian.
The creatine supplement,
yes.
what programs would you recommend that for?
It really, I mean, creatine has been shown to be beneficial in all types of exercise. I mean, it's specifically beneficial in muscle building exercises. So, you know, it'd be really good for the Body Beast, some of the P90X programs. The thing to be concerned with is if you're doing a high intensity program where you're sweating a lot, is that you've just got to up your water intake quite a bit. There were a few when it first came out, cases of people getting dehydrated and getting like heat stroke and stuff like that. And that's really because they weren't consuming enough water, because the fluid was getting pulled into the muscles to volumize it. And so in the rest of the tissue in the body, it wasn't there to get processed. But that's the only thing that's ever really been identified, is that if you don't drink enough water, then you could potentially suffer dehydration because of that. Other than that, totally safe, because it's naturally found in the body anyway. So if you want to use it for something like insanity, you can. You just got to drink extra water. Because remember, it doesn't just volumize muscle, it also helps shorten the recovery of the muscle so that it can fire off again and can perform what you want it to, right? It's got that twofold benefit.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sarah. Go ahead, Jen.
I have two questions. First, is this a line designed for more high performance athletes versus some of my weight loss clients? Is it good to recommend to them, or do I hold off and just recommend it to, like you were saying, Insanity and Body Beast?
So I'm going to address that when we go into the sales, when we do part 2 for the sales, because that falls in line more with demographics.
Okay.
So I'll address that in part 2, which will also be recorded. So what's your second question?
Okay. So my second question is this all designed to work together, or is it okay to recommend individual products?
You can use these individually, but the way they are designed is to hit what's needed for every phase of your training. Okay, so pre-workout, during your workout, right after your workout, when you're sleeping. I mean, you know, and so these are all critical times when a little supplement can give you just a little bit extra to get you to that next level. And so they are best if they're used together. I would probably be so bold as to say they kind of work in a synergistic manner, but creatine works if you take it without this other type of protein. So it's not required. I would just say it works best together.
Thank you.
Okay, Zahira, go next.
I actually have 3 questions. The first one would be, does this type of product may eventually, with a lot of use, cause some sort of gut problems? And if so, what?
A lot of times when someone takes in something that's new, they may experience a little bit of unrest. I mean, like, for example, some of them may have lactose in it, or beta-alanine sometimes can make people a little jittery or things like that. But as far as, I mean, everything has a small risk of like getting, you know, hives or headaches. But for most of these products, other than the one I mentioned before, the quercetin that I told you that was in Energize, that's the only one that has, it's not even significant, but it has a higher concern if you're taking blood thinners. Okay? Other than that, everything else has a very minute chance for making someone have an upset stomach. But if it does, remember something. You can't take it once and then determine, oh, this doesn't work for me. your body's got to get used to supplementation, especially when it's nutritional and it's sound. I'm not talking about like energy drinks. I'm talking about sound nutrition like this. If it's not used to it, yeah, your stomach and stuff can react in a weird way. Give it some time. Give it a week. I say 7 to 14 days. And then if after that it's still giving them trouble, okay, then maybe they can stop it or back it up. But otherwise, they've got to take it for a period of time.
Okay, the other two questions are, I've heard really bad things about casein protein. Is there a specific reason that you think why people might not be for casein protein?
Casein protein, some people have said, whatever, that doesn't work. Because it's a milk product, some people, because of the lactose, gives them gas and bloating and things like that. So it's probably really more a matter of what they've heard from different people that may not be educated on it. But the bulk of the research shows that although it doesn't have as high a quality of protein as whey, because it's time released, it actually really does serve a good purpose when you're exercising intensely for muscle recovery and protein synthesis.
Okay. And the last question, do you guys know if there's anywhere or if we would be able to have access to the labels?
So I can answer that. All of the labels will be in your Coach Online office under the product supplements. That they always have labels back there. And then for those of you that aren't aware, they do have a sampler pack in our Coach Online office, as well as in your customers' Beachbody accounts, where they can get one of each one of them, I think minus the creatine, for $15.95, much like our Shakeology sampler. So real quick, because we're running out of time, Sally, let's go to you.
Hi. So I have a question I always get asked by women. Should women take creatine? Is it necessary for us?
It all depends upon what their goals are. Now, understand one thing. It's not very easy for women to build muscle. Very few women can actually build muscle, even if they're lifting with heavy weights. So if you have someone that's like a CrossFitter and they want to build some lean muscle tissue, then yes, I would say creatine is fine. If they're not, if they're doing Slim in 6 or something, or something else that's very low intensity and they're just trying to maintain what they have and they don't want to be lean and stuff like that, well then, probably not. But because there's lots of women that are doing Body Beast, there's lots of women that are doing, P90X and things. And if that's their goal, to have a lean, feminine, but muscular-ish physique, then yes, creatine, they should take it.
Okay, thanks. So my biggest seller is the 21-day fix. They just want to lose weight. And this stuff is going to come out and they're going to see that I'm talking about it. They're going to ask me, should we get this? Do you think they really need it?
If they're doing the 21-day fix, I would say probably not. If they're doing the 21-day fix extreme, then I would say sure, they just have to increase their water intake.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, Brian had a question on hydrate. Go for it, Brian.
Yeah, real quick. So in the last 18 months, the programs that have been released are mostly 30-minute at-home workout programs. So I don't consume a lot of water during my workout. Pre and post, I do. Now the hydrate, how much do you mix it with, and how much? So what are we talking volume-wise?
You're talking 1 scoop, and that 1 scoop gets delivered in 8 ounces of water. Now, what I want to explain to you is this: how a fluid that you take in a drink affects you, whether it's hydration or whether it's energy replacement, is affected by the carbohydrate content, okay? The way this is formulated, this is just below 6% of a carbohydrate concentration in the amount of water. It's specifically designed for optimal hydration, meaning getting that fluid into your tissue, okay? Other drinks that have more sugar, a little bit more sugar, they'll give you some more energy, but not necessarily as much hydration, and then when you get even more, they really don't give you the benefit you need unless you're doing a really long event. So that's the way it works. The way it's made here, you put in a scoop of 8 ounces of water, you sip it, and it will get into your system and hydrate you as quick as possible. That's the way they made it.
So over the course of a 30-minute workout, you should be consuming the whole 8 ounces, you would say?
Yeah, 8 ounces. I always have my clients drink in between sets of exercises.
So for something like Insanity Max 30, where you really have very few breaks, then it would be important to push the pause button and make sure you're getting a couple of ounces of water down versus not drinking it. Because then I think, Bill, when you and I were talking, if you don't consume the hydrate during your workout, and you do it maybe like a little bit before, a little bit during, and a little bit after, that's fine. But for optimal performance, I think you were telling me that it should be consumed while you're in an exercise, right?
Yeah, it's it. Getting hydrated is unfortunately not a super simple thing. Oh, I just drink fluid and I'm hydrated. But you should replace it as quickly as possible or as close as possible to that when you're losing it. 30 minutes, obviously, that's not a really long exercise, but it's good to get in that habit of just drinking as you're exercising so that you can stay, you can just stay ahead of the game or at least stay with the game. So that's just what I recommend to my clients as well.
So what would you recommend for somebody that's actually an instructor, right? Where they don't typically get the time to really drink a lot while they're teaching?
Wait, can I comment on that one a little bit?
Yeah,
that's an easy one. I mean, I got plenty of time.
Do you? Okay.
I use the results in recovery right now as a hydrate and a post-workout. I take little sips while I'm teaching because of the simple sugar for my glycogen levels for like rapid release. It works incredible for my performance. So I will be switching to hydrate and then recovery and replacing what I'm doing now with just recovery. I probably won't do the first one just because of the caffeine, because I drink so much coffee in the morning. As my pre-workout is coffee. But one thing I like to tell people about hydration is that imagine your cells, if you're dehydrated, as being like raisins, and if you're hydrated, of being like grapes. And for optimum performance and recovery and everything, we need grape-like cells for all the firings of our whole system, the whole body, the musculoskeletal, the endocrine, the cardiorespiratory, all of it. It's the oil in our car. I mean, one of the best things we can do for performance in general is keep our cells like grapes.
Yeah, I find it easy to hydrate in a live class, but in these short at-home 25 to 30-minute ones, I'm not spending a lot of time hydrating. It's so fast. That's why I had my question, I guess, Bill.
I would suggest you adopt a new habit.
Yeah.
Just have the bottle right near me, and whenever I'm doing Insanity Max 30 or whatever, I just take a quick sip. I know it's 20 seconds. It doesn't take any time to go and then drop that bottle. So it's up to you. That's what I recommend. That's what I practice with my clients.
Can I ask one thing? Since I'm a runner, would that be all right too? I mean, because I run, running half marathons and marathons, we are always drinking, but would that be all right for that?
Yeah, just for you, I would mix a larger portion. I'd like to have 3 servings and 24 ounces of water, and then sip it as you're moving out in your thing. Now, when you're doing endurance exercises, then the ratio of sugar, depending upon the intensity and the length of it, can kind of change. And so that's why they have these stations with, different things. So it would definitely be good for you, but you might need some additional supplementation as well. But yeah, for sure.
Well, so if I had goo with it, would it be all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, goo's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we've got less than 2 minutes on the call today. Do we have any last minute quick questions? Okay, perfect. So here's what we're going to do. I will send out a link to everybody for the part 2 on essentially how to market this to your current customers and to new customers. And then we can wrap it up, and I'll be working with Ellen on that one because we've already kind of started having conversations with that. So look for that post. There'll be another Zoom call in the different team pages, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thanks, Bill.
And you are more
Thanks,
than welcome
CJ.
to contact me anytime you want if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.